No reason to stop now, right? Welcome back to Gary Paulson's Lawn Boy. We are on chapter 8. This story is picking up. Margot's super excited, right? Not so much. But she should be, because this is a super fun book. So we've just realized that Lawn Boy is rich. Pretty rich. I mean, not as rich as Bill Gates. They brought that up. But definitely, can you imagine being 12 and having $8,000 to your name? It's a lot of Spalding basketballs. It's a lot of 10-speed bikes. Man, it's a lot of V-Bucks, right? Anybody out there know what I'm talking about? All right, here we go. How about chapter 8? Dramatic economic expansion, its causes and effects. All right, we know that economic expansion, we've talked about this already. Economic expansion is when the economy grows, when your money, your capital, your resources are growing. And this time it's dramatic. Listen, I've had several of you guys in class before, and you know a little bit about drama. You know what it means to be dramatic. It means kind of over the top. So we thought $8,000 was a lot. And Lawn Boy was telling Arnold at the end of the last chapter, like, hey man, I'm cool with $8,000. Let's just, that's a lot of money to me. And that's when Arnold said, ooh, well, in that case, we got a problem. Let's see what that problem is. Join me on page 42. Your problem, Arnold said, is both simple and a bit complex. More tea? No, I'm fine. Outside, the rain seemed to let up a bit, then came down harder. I could hear thunder way off somewhere. What are you talking about? He took a sip of tea. Man, I like this tea. You know, it comes straight from India, and all the yogis drink it. And I hear the Beatles used to drink it all the time. Arnold! Oh, yeah, right. Well, let's go back to when this all started, all right? Yeah, you bet. Please. All right, you remember that I had a cash flow problem, and instead of paying you cash, I started an account for you under my own name because you're too young to have an account. Remember that? Yes. And we bought 80 shares of a coffin manufacturing firm for 50 cents a share. I nodded. I'm still with you. Now, there's some risk, of course, with buying what they call penny stocks, which these were, but I thought that with just $40 invested, even if the company went belly up, the loss rate would not be unbearable. Yeah, okay, I'm still here. Well, the stock, it did not lose. After the second quarter of the year, it turned out the company had a great deal of land in northern Minnesota, upwards of 2,000 acres of hardwoods that they planned to use to make coffins. Another sip of tea. I waited. This had not been reported initially, but the land with the valuable hardwoods was free and clear, and it belonged to the company. It was part of their net worth that nobody knew about, and then when word got out, the stock rose dramatically. Like, how dramatically? Normally I dislike these things because they give the wrong impression about the stock market. 10, 12% a year is a good figure to think about making in the market. These explosions are very unpredictable, and there's always an element of risk that one shouldn't plan on. Arnold, how big an explosion? Well, the first day it jumped to just over $10, and I thought of selling. Stock purchased at 50 cents and sold for $10 gives an excellent return. But the sudden surge caused a lot of interest, and people started wanting to buy the stock, and that drove the price up even further and still further. And, well, I finally sold at $100.10 a share. So your $40 investment brought you in just over $8,000, less my 5% commission. A commission's kind of like the fee for doing business, almost like a tip when you go to a restaurant and you tip a waiter. That is like a commission. So, just to recap, Lawn Lawn Boy, $8,000 in cash. It's what he's made mowing yards. Now he's just learned that he's made another $8,000 in his stock with the coffin company. Lawn Boy says, "You mean to tell me I have $8,000 on top of the other 8,000?" I dumped them together in my head. 8 and 8. That's 16. $16,000. Less commissions and all those other things. Taxes, less taxes. $16,000. Well, not exactly. I assumed I had a rather free hand with your investments, so I reinvested it in some of the other money you've been giving me. And, well, frankly, I took a daring risk on it with one stock. Well, I invested my own money at the same time, and I took that same risk. What did you invest in? It was one of those freak software things. Believe me, normally I wouldn't have given it a second thought. Like, they're just too big a gamble. But the quarterly earnings looked good, and they had a new idea about some nationwide internet use, something to do with, like, vastly improving the speed. It's a company called Walleye. I bought you 3,000 shares at 60 cents a share. Oh, and we lost? Oh, my, no. The new internet system they evolved swept the country, and the stock jumped to $10 and split, which gave you 6,000 shares at 5, then went back up to $10 and split again, which gave you 12,000 shares, which climbed back up to 55 a share, hung there, and then flattened out. So I sold them when they went back down to $4. He had, as they say, gone past my knowledge envelope about the stock market, meaning he was just as confused as you are right now. So, you sold my 3,000 shares for $4. Oh, no. He shook his head. It had split and then resplit, and then you had 12,000 shares at $4 a share. I must point out that this kind of growth is unprecedented. The numbers were there. Like, I knew that they were there, but, like, they just didn't register. It was, like, too much to understand or believe. I was 12. That morning, my parents were having trouble deciding if they could afford a newer used car. 5 weeks earlier, my grandmother had given me her old riding lawnmower, and I'd started mowing lawns. I was only 12, and Arnold had sold 12,000 shares of Walleye for $4 a share. $48,000? Is that right? Well, I mean, less commission, of course. Yeah, of course. Sure, right. Let me get this straight. Sure, man. I know this is like, oh, far out. No, wait. You're telling me I started with an old lawnmower, and now I have what do I have? Well, from all your stocks and bonds right now, over $50,000. Well, it's less because I took out my commission, but I will, of course, reinvest it. Of course. All in solid, safe blue chip stocks and government bonds, he smiled. Perhaps you'd better take a few deep breaths. You seem to be weaving a bit. I have $50,000 and change, plus the $8,000 for mowing. And change? You, he said, smiling, have had a very groovy month. But I didn't hear him finish the sentence. I had fainted. Holy smokes, guys. And that's the end of that particular chapter. It's a short one, but wow, did a lot happen. Lawn Boy just thought he was rich with $8,000. He has a portfolio filled with stocks and other things that Arnold had purchased on his behalf. And all of that totals $50,000. That's more than most people make in a year. Wow, guys, that's a lot of money. What is the lawn boy going to do? There's only one way to find out. That means head on over to the next chapter. I'll meet you there. Happy reading.